So what is Crystallizer? Well, Crystallizer is an otherworldly creative effect that transforms instruments using a combination of pitch shifting and reversed echo. Based on the Eventide H3000's innovative reverse shift algorithm. So Crystallizer brings granular echo slicing, old school pitch shifting, and powerful new features together into one inspiring tool. If you've listened to the radio in the late 80s, you've heard the crystal echoes effect from Eventide H3000 effects processor. The sound is absolutely unmistakable and has been used on countless records to transform simple chords into epic soundscapes. Once musicians and engineers got their hands on this unique technique and realized how it instantly turned minimal guitar lines into shimmering symphonic textures, there really was no going back. You could hear it on hundreds of records, from 80s anthems to ambient compositions to modern indie rock and chillwave, and now you can have it too. So what are the kind of key things that it does? Firstly, it recreates that classic crystalline sound of the Eventide H3000, turns simple melodies and chords into shimmering textured soundscapes. It creates rich, evolving effects with reverse echoes and pitch shifting. It locks the effect to your project's tempo and even adds custom automation. It can transform your guitar, your bass, your drums or loops into something completely new. And it's really an amazing tool for creative sound designers. I've brought in a guitar from Splice and it sounds like this. We're going to activate Crystallizer. This is the default patch. So you can hear that it instantly has a transformative sound. Let's have a look at these knobs and see what they do. So pitch, splice and delay are kind of the engine of Crystallizer. Now splice is the actual length of time that the sample that you're hearing is actually delayed and played back. So if we bring it to the max to one note, it will play the entire sample back. Let's listen to that. Now it's playing the whole sample back, but it is also playing it back in reverse. So let's click that to forward. So it should just be a sample repeating itself. Let's listen to it this way. Now let's reduce the splice to 1/8, which is the default. So 132 is breaking the sample down into 132 and it's repeating that. Let's just bring the mix to complete wet so all you hear is the affected sound. But we can actually add delay on top of this, so we can actually add no delay at all. And let's just bring this down to fast. Let's just change the pitch a little bit. Now with recycle, that is very similar to a feedback on a delay. So it just recycles on itself, so it just feedbacks the loop. And that small bit of pitch, you can really hear that sound. Now the last thing I wanted to show on the main screen was threshold and gate duck. They work together. Duck is actually reducing, attenuating the sound of the effect, and gate is increasing it. But you need to kind of understand how that works with threshold. So what I've done here is I've increased the mix to wet, so we only hear the effect. We don't hear the original sound, and we're going to just now start tweaking the gate and duck. We're going to reduce the effect sound, actually bring it down now to 0, and you won't hear anything, I think. But once you reduce the threshold of where duck takes effect, you can start slowly hearing the affected sound. And very similar with gate duck, we can bring it all the way to the gate side where this actually increases the volume of the effect, and we reduce the threshold, and it will just sort of play it once it reaches that volume threshold. And obviously normally you will have a bit of the sound inside the mix. So you have complete control over how much of the crystallizer goes through your mix. Okay, and then this is by default set to link to the MIDI clock of your DAW, but you can switch that off, fine tune the time of the splice and delay. So let's just do that now. So some really cool sounds there. Now, like many of the Soundtoys effects processors, you have input and output. This is your input signal, and this is the volume of the output signal, not to be confused with mix, which is how much of the effect is on your mix. So the other thing that we might want to just quickly look at is you just click on the titles here, and you can actually see the values, which are pretty cool. Not sure how many people know that, but that's a feature of all the Soundtoys effects. And like many of the Soundtoys effects, we have the tweak button, which just gives you a bit more extra control. So let's just listen to this again, and we will play with some of the different controls. Okay, so we've got pitch offset, which links to this pitch, splice offset, delay offset, and smoothing. It has a low cut and a high cut, so that gives you control over your overall sound. Even has different types of feedback modes. You've got this ping pong, which is a left-right control, and dual, which is a dual effect, which is pretty cool. And actually different types of ducking modes. You've got feedback loop ducking mode, output and both. And then you've got an attack release. All that does is it controls how quickly the effect takes place and how quickly it goes away. So let's play a bit. Go dual effect. Let's cut some of the high off the effect. Let's cut some of the low. We just got the high. And etc. There's quite a few things you can do there, but I'm not going to go through this because I think you should go and have a play. So here are some other use cases for Crystallizer. Now I've got it on a drum loop. Let's listen to the drum loop without. Sounds pretty cool. But we can really affect things here now. So let's change the recycle, increase that. It's not affecting the kick drum. The kick's on a different track. So we just cut the low here and just affected the high. So obviously that makes a massive difference to your drums and really gives it some personality. And all of these are obviously automatable. So you can really build some interest in your drums. They're not static loops anymore when you add a Crystallizer to it. Just going to copy this into the kick and switch it off the main drum. Just going to play it on the kick. And this is now just on the kick, so we just go into tweak mode. Now just increase the low and high. Just increase the delay. Sorry, reduce the delay. So you can imagine with automation how you can get some real interesting sounds. And that's another thing I forgot to say, that with pitch you can actually make some really interesting risers sounds. So let's just do that now. So another use case for this is shifting the pitch over time, and actually that makes some pretty good risers. You can pretty much use any sound you want. For example, I've just put in a operator pad sound, a transcending a pluck pad sound, and if we just listen to the sound, it's just literally one note in the clip, and we will listen to it without the Crystallizer on. It's pretty boring. But once you put the Crystallizer on, what we can do is automate the pitch, which we just did a bit earlier. And I've just risen it basically, and we'll listen to it now. So there you go, instant risers. And once you have that, you can pretty much put any sound you want in there and it will sound good. So I took that riser effect and I just put a vocal from Splice onto another track and added some reverb. I put it at the end there, and exactly the same riser, and let's listen to it, how it sounds on a vocal. There's no original sound now. This is just the Crystallizer. With the Ableton reverb. Sounds like a monster. Let's just bring the vocal back in. So really powerful on the vocals. And now if we bring in a tremolator effect on top of the Crystallizer. So we talked about tremolator a few days ago. We'll just bring in some simple rhythms. the reverb in after the tremolator. We bring the crystallizer in after the reverb. And the tremolator before the crystallizer. So finally we'll listen to some of the presets using a bass sound. This is the bass sound. So these are the bass presets or guitar presets. As you can tell, if you spend enough time with Crystallizer, you're going to come up with some shit. It's a pretty incredible plugin. Maybe one of the best ones that Soundtoys has made. Maybe not as useful like a utility like Tremolator is or Soundtoys Echo Boy, but in terms of creative possibilities, Crystallizer is just cool. I mean, if you've just got some boring sample loops or just some boring MIDI, slap a Crystallizer on it and see what happens. See where you go with it. A lot of people would pay a lot of money if this was hardware, but it's software and it's $40. So definitely give it a go. Try a demo if you want, but I think I highly recommend Crystallizer. Catch you later. Bye.